week. Then we're going to talk about the listicles getting nerfed, which was bound to happen. I mean, honestly, was definitely bound to happen. This is something that a lot of folks have been talking about across the industry, so we're going to go through that. We're going to talk about why you should. Okay, so this is going to be an important one, and I'm going to get a little annoyed as we talk about it because it's something I talk about so much. Is why shouldn't you create separate markdown pages for LLMs? I'll explain what that is for folks who don't know, but we'll also go into my POV on why you should not do that. And everybody, Bing is having a day here. Bing's having a day, and they are. Like Bing Webmaster Tools is showing AI performance. This was just announced. It just rolled out. People are just getting into it now. So if you haven't gotten into your Bing Webmaster Tools, get in there. And then last but not least, we have a core update rolling out, the February 2026 Discover core update, which is only impacting folks on Discover. But we will go through all of that, but let's jump into it. We have a lot to cover because we only have 30 minutes. So number one, what are we going to see? Everybody, it is very, very volatile out there, right? So February, January into February, as you can see, pretty much, after the December core update rolled out and finished, it was, you can see this just like upward, up and to the right trend of volatility, right? Now, that is something that is, like if this had been maybe like 8 months ago, I would have said, well, this is just what we've been seeing. But actually, Google's been pretty quiet. Like through the holidays, yes, they rolled out a core update, which they always do every year. But ultimately, like even though that core update had a lot of teeth, it was, there was a period of a lull, for a significant amount of time. That is not the case anymore. A lot of people. Now, what you're hearing here is that a lot of people are saying this is a unconfirmed update. Anyone who has joined the program for any significant amount of time knows I don't believe in unconfirmed updates. I just believe that there are modifications to updates that have already rolled out. And you can see that, and I'll go into, my reasoning more about why. I'm seeing that. I believe that we're seeing that here and continue to prove my theory because I know I'm right, damn it. Is that, it really is the nature of the changes and the nature of the volatility, right? So right there, that's the big thing. Everything is moving around. There's a lot of things swishing around, right? Next, there is a ton of volatility around listicle articles. I'm going to show you a bunch of graphs. I'm going to talk about a bunch of other, folks in the industry, some with bigger voices than mine, who have been talking about this for a while. Lily Ray in particular has been talking about this for like a year. And ultimately we are seeing that listicles are getting nerfed. More on that later. I have a whole section on that. And then from a Discover standpoint, now last time, the December core update, what we saw was, which we covered last month, was that people who, are publishers from different parts of the world were starting to not show like for example, like we saw in the United States, just using that as an example, that, large article-based content or publishers in India, for example, like the Hindu.com, stopped showing and tanked in U.S. results. Same thing for, like the Press Gazette out in the U.K. And then for U.S.-based publishers, we saw sites like TechCrunch and Wall Street Journal, New York Times actually surge during that time. And you're starting to see more of that here. So we'll get into that as well. But just know that right now it is very, very, very volatile out there. So from that perspective, getting into some of Conductor's data, right? Let's get into retail. So again, as everybody knows who joins the program, I go through 3 or 4 industries every month, but they are always audience requested. So put the industry that you want me to check next month, and it might make the show live. Throw it in the chat right now, or throw it in the chat at any time. And again, as always, the most requested industries are the ones that get reviewed. So retail was by far the most requested one last month. So let's see what's going on here. Now, retail has had an interesting, kind of up and down, I would say, over the last couple of years. Again, like ever since the helpful content update, landed in, back in September of 2022, the first iteration of it. That was something that we, has, kind of hounded and haunted a lot of retail sites. And again, what we're seeing here is a lot of the same, really like a lot of ups and downs, right? So Walmart, and I think the 3 sites that I pick really show you different sized retailers and what we're seeing across all of our data for those cohorts, right? So Walmart saw a 2% increase through all of this volatility, but they're still down 18% year over year, right? And that's what I saw across a lot of large retailers like Walmart, like big box stores, brick and mortar type stores, right? Now, going back to one of my favorites, my buddy's site, Wetsuit Warehouse, up 7% year over year and up 14% since the December core update in top 10 visibility. This is actually the biggest trend that I saw. That big box retailers, like brick and mortar, against like e-commerce, kind of retail. Like those two types of sites, like smaller, like, although like Wetsuit Warehouse does have has brick and mortar stores, but ultimately not as big of a footprint. That's what I'm saying. Mostly an e-commerce presence, but ultimately does have brick and mortar. Like I saw like these medium, these small to medium sized businesses actually, kind of start to thrive, during the December update and actually did well year over year. Best Buy, again, another example of a big box store. Not a lot of movement here, right? Like they're up 2%, year over year, and another 2%, from the December core update, but largely flat. Like that's not a lot of movement. So for big box retailers, what I mainly saw was flat to negative, year over year, but they did see, pops, during the December update. But for smaller, smaller box stores, I guess you can call them, over the last 60 days or so, like they actually saw much more benefit. And these are the types of sites that struggle, those small to medium size, kind of retailer / e-commerce sites. So really interesting findings there across retail and different types of retail. Again, I want to show you not just big box, big, huge enterprise customers, but smaller, brick and mortar type stores as well. One thing that we did see, we saw sustained growth in AI overviews. So this was something, again, this is something that I look at very closely. And as you can see here for all of these sites, after the December update, which, we saw go from about 25% to 45%, during that time, which was a surge in AI overview visibility, that's sustained. So that's where there actually isn't any volatility. So this 40 to 45% might be the new normal, for AI overviews, right? This might be the next plateau, and I think that number will just get bigger, especially depending on what industry you're in. Let's talk about technology. This is the second most requested, and ultimately, so Texas Instruments, right? Technology was a little bit of a mixed bag, but Texas Instruments, so semiconductor company, like 8% increase in top 10 visibility, over the last 60 days. But really, they just got back to where they were at the beginning of the year. So again, pretty flat here, and that's a common story, that I saw across a lot of like semiconductor, semiconductor, businesses. Looking at Intel, seeing like, a 2% increase since the December core update, but they are down 18% year over year, right? So again, a mixed bag in technology, but nothing super positive outside of, computing. So like thinking about like your Dells, your HPs of the world, they actually saw a 5% increase through the December update. And sites of this nature, like again, like this is like a computer manufacturing, like computer technology, 12% increase year over year in top 10 visibility. So across this, I tried to show like, because like a lot of people, requested technology, not in a specific realm. So I went semiconductor, I went computers, and and I went to like Intel, like chip makers, and a lot of other things, obviously. But computing definitely did the best, right? Like this is those are the trends that I saw across different types of technology companies. So, and again, AI overviews, also a little bit interesting. So they, so technology companies actually saw their biggest spike in AI overviews in June of last year, of 2025, right? Which is around where most started to see it, right? But then they kind of were sustained. Definitely a little bit of a bump in December, from the December update, but not as sharp or as pronounced as other industries. All right, let's get into home services. This is the third most requested. And actually, I looked back across the last 6 months. Home services has actually been requested, consistently for 6 months. So for all of you you, so for all of you, you're requesting that, I apologize. It took so long to get here, but anyway, so number one, 1-800-GOT-JUNK, has a good year. They have a good year putting together from page one, top 10 visibility being up 6%, but also up 19% year over year. So they're, like junk hauling, things of that nature. I looked across, even that like kind of niche cohort, they're having a good year. That sector's having a good year. Roto-Rooter having a banner year. So Roto-Rooter, plumbing, snaking company, massive year, 92%, in top 10 visibility, and with 27% of that coming after the December core update. So again, you can see here that this site was, kind of chugging along, and not anything negative, honestly. Year over year, they were just growing. Then July, August, they saw a bump, and then the December update really kicked it into gear for them. So again, 92% growth year over year. I don't know who's running that program, but good job. Whatever you're doing, do it times 10. Because that site is rocking and rolling. And then next, looking more locally. So again, home services is interesting because you have kind of national brands, for home services like a Roto-Rooter or like a 1-800-GOT-JUNK, which have go across states and everything. Apple Air is actually a more local business, and this is what most what most businesses actually kind of look like in this area, because it's like plumbing, heating, cooling. So Apple Air is a heating and cooling company, widely used on Long Island, brick and mortar store. They actually they install and maintain my HVAC system. Great people. If you live on Long Island, call them. But this is a trend that I saw, that more local businesses definitely saw a huge bump in December as well. 139% year over year, and 47% since the December core update. Of course, you're talking about lower numbers here because it's a more local business, but this is big. This is a big visibility game for a size of this site and a business of this size. So again, what I saw, home services are having a moment right now. The December core update was very, very kind to them. Again, very local focused. Most of the visibility that you're seeing, like the top 10 visibility or just the overall visibility in that area, a lot of it's local pack. A lot of it is, kind of local listings showing up, which shows you the strength. And where a lot of this is also not, a lot of where they're, these smaller businesses are taking care of their websites and they're actually doing something. So from there, let's get in. Oh, and the last thing. So the most interesting thing about the home services area is that AI overviews actually declined for 1-800-GOT-JUNK, but then went up for Roto-Rooter and completely disappeared for Apple Air, although they never really had much anyway. But again, small local business like that. But again, they're not completely invisible, obviously. But it was interesting to see someone like 1-800-GOT-JUNK, which is a fairly well-known brand, decline in this area, and then Roto-Rooter actually increasing just like all the other sites. Of course, Roto-Rooter probably had the most banner results here, but ultimately it's just interesting to see what's happening in AI overviews and AI overall. So moving on from there, let's talk about listicles. So everyone, I brought this up a couple of times on the program, and something that I knew was a sketchy thing, that a lot of people were talking about. Again, I've been in organic search SEO, for over 20 years, about 23 years. Not to date myself, but this reeked of an old guest blogging strategy from the beginning, right? And what do I mean by that? Hey, I'm going to write an article that is a listicle, which is basically just rankings, the best fintech software of 2026, right? And what these companies are doing is they're writing all of this content, and then they are posting it on their own blog. And they are putting themselves or their product as number one, right? And they're just doing this over and over. But then the worst part of this is that they are then going out to friendlies, and they are not the restaurant, but to friendly companies, and then they are basically guest blogging, and they are sharing, they're all writing listicles about each other, and they're saying, well, you're the best, you're the best, professional services. Well, you're the best agency, and they're all just helping each other. This is just guest blogging. It's literally just guest blogging. It's a new way. It's a new package it's a new package for link sharing, and it's like, it's really annoying to see, honestly, because I knew this was gonna stop working almost immediately. Lily Ray, who I'm sure you're all familiar with, she has been talking about this for over a year. This has been she's been on like a crusade about this, and like this is going to implode at one point. She wrote a really great breakdown of this on her Substack, which I linked here. She recently launched it. Lily's super smart, and she did a really good breakdown. She does a ton of research, and it's really, and these are two charts from her Substack of sites that were using listicles that completely collapsed. And this is what's been happening across all of these different this is what's been happening across the last 30 days through all of this volatility, is that if you're doing this listicle thing, there are some sites out there that have like 40, 50, 60 listicles about every single product that you do, every single angle of the product that you do, and all they're doing is putting themselves in number one. And then you can tell that there are sites that they are connected with that they're just trading it back and forth. Again, this is just guest blogging. It's literally what it is, right? Like everyone's sharing links and all that stuff. And again, this works until it doesn't work. That's the whole point of this. All of these types of strategies work until they don't work. And in the age of AI, it's not going to work for very long, because what's happening right now is Google completely nerfed this. All of these sites are tanking, and all of these articles are tanking. And what does it turn into? It turns into a gigantic waste of time for everybody, right? It's just a gigantic waste of time, to everyone. And, ultimately, Lily called this a while ago, I've been following, I've been on so many calls with people that are saying like, hey, I think I'm just going to make a bunch of listicles. And I'm like, it's okay to be part of a listicle or do like one or two if it's a fair analysis, right? But if you're just creating a listicle and putting yourself on top, saying like that's just us saying like we're the best AEO software, and we decided that because we wrote the article, and here's some other information that probably isn't true about competitors. We don't do that, by the way. If Lindsay's listening, Lindsay, I know you don't do that. But ultimately, but you have to think about that. There's a lot of people out there that are doing this, and you must stop. You cannot do this. Is not a good strategy. I feel like I'm back when I started, in the early 2000s. This is like AI slop, that people are churning out. They're basically guest blogging with one another. And again, that got nerfed a long time ago in traditional search. This lasted how long? 6 months, 6 months the strategy was working, and now it's gone. And so again, if you're going to create these things, make sure that they're actually backed by real research with real people, and that's the whole thing. And again, I see the comment here, Scott. Yeah, it's like everyone, this is like, hey, let's all start populating our meta keyword fields again. It's like, I feel like it's that. It's like, people, come on, better. And and the funny thing is what this is going to create for everyone on here. And and there's always a ton of people here. Just like for everyone on here who is a hands-on keys SEO, AEO strategist. It's just like we have to remember our past, right? Because Google certainly does. And they're not just going to start letting things that, that worked in the past all of a sudden start working again, right? They know people are going to, there's always going to be people who try to game the system. There's always going to be black hat folks. And that's part of the ecosystem. But ultimately, we just have to be smarter. But what this also will, this will also guarantee work for us forever, because there are going to be so many sites that need good, SEO and, AEO people that are going to come and clean all of this up. And it's just a vicious cycle. It's just a vicious cycle. And I'm sure a lot of this is just bad advice that's out there, and people, not doing their own research or doing their own experiments. And speaking of terrible ideas, let's go on to the next one. Again, quoting Lily here, because these two things are like the talk of the town right now, is that, so one of the hottest debates in the industry, which I hear all the time, obviously Conductor technology company, a lot of people ask me about hey, what about markdown, markdown versions of your pages, or the LLMs.txt, so it's just we can give the LLMs just just the basic text, and so they just get the answer and then they leave. So this has been something that I've gotten into strong conversations. I wouldn't say arguments, debates, strong conversations. Looking at Sam over here, and ultimately what it comes down to is that this is not a good idea. And I'm happy that Lily was able to produce this comment from John at Google. And just for anyone, again, I always have to remember that there are people of varying levels of expertise that come to the program. So just in case you don't know what a markdown version, or a .md version of your page is, right? A markdown version is a plain text copy. like it's a plain text version of the copy of the content that's on your site. And the reason that people think that we should use it is that it's easy to read, it's simple to edit, and it's versatile. It can be quickly turned back into a full website. It can be used for documentation or blogs. And a lot of people are thinking like, well, LLMs just want the text, right? They just want the content on the site. Let's create like a shadow version of our site and have just serve the URLs, the markdown versions of each page to the LLMs, block the LLMs to my HTML site. And then that, the website, the HTML site or whatever it's, built in will be for humans, and the markdown version will be for LLMs. This is dumb. There's no reason to do this. Like, I'm sorry. Like, there's just, in my opinion, there is no reason to do this. And just look at John's comment. And I'm actually going to read it because it's so important that everyone really understands this. Like, I am not aware of anything in that regard. In my POV, LLMs have trained on, read and parse normal web pages since the beginning. It seems a given that they have no problem dealing with HTML. Why would they want to see a page that no user sees? And if they check for equivalence, why not use HTML? Again, the thing that if the LM went to a markdown page, what it's going to do, it's going to go to the HTML page either way and make sure that they're the same thing. It's just this. It doesn't make any sense. And what it's going to create is people cloaking their websites, which is, again, going back to like the guest blogging, that basically people are doing with the listicles. That is not a good idea, everyone. This is an old school tactic. This is cloaking. This is basically cloaking in certain form. But at the same time, like, you have to recognize that there's a lot of bad advice out there. I don't mind people running experiments. Run the experiments. But what's dangerous is that the people that are running the experiments are doing it on a small part of their site. Like, they're doing it on a small part of their site, and they're seeing if it actually does anything. The dangerous part is that a CMO catches wind of this and saying like, oh my God, this is what we need to do. And then all of a sudden teams get put, and then all of a sudden a site gets completely, a whole different version of your site gets created that's in markdown, or even worse, that's just blocked and it's just like text on HTML, like on a regular web page, which I've also seen. And what happens is Google discovers this and they're like, what are you doing? You have different versions of your site, and it's going to tank your traditional search program. Again, like, AI LLMs can read your website. Like, will LLMs.txt be a thing? Absolutely. That will absolutely be a thing. You'll be able to give directives. That will absolutely will be a thing to the most important parts of your site. That is my opinion. But again, like, there are so many better ways to get LLM's information than creating markdown versions of your site and then basically creating a shadow version of your site and cloaking it from search engines. This will end badly. It will end badly for people who don't do this correctly, and not correctly, people who do this. And I can already see the stories coming out, 6 months from now as people continue to do this. But if your tech folks come to you and say like, hey, we're going to make a markdown version of the site, or we're going to create a separate version of the site just for LLMs, tell them to stop, right? Like, get in touch with whoever their boss is or whoever their boss's boss is, and just have a real conversation and tell them about the risks of this. All you're seeing right now is the Wild West is being recreated in organic search. And what happened in the wild west of organic search back when I first started, and when a lot of other folks before me started back in the 90s, is crap like this. It is like really shady things that are happening. And this is bad. This is bad for your site. This is bad for the customer experience. And it's something that you just can't do. You just can't do. How are we doing on time? All right. 5 minutes, everybody. 5 minutes. So everybody, I'm going to talk about Bing. So everyone knows my affinity for Bing, but listen, I give them a lot of credit here because I logged in to my Bing Webmaster Tools account for one of my personal websites for the first time in like 10 years, and the reason for that is they have launched an AI performance report, and it's pretty cool. This is not my site. This is actually something that Glenn Gabe, shared. And, it was interesting, like that you're going to start to see people really, talk about Bing, and good for Bing. And to me, it's cool. Like, and here's why. Like total citations, like, because again, this is directly from Bing. That's the cool thing. This is directly from Microsoft, right? So you get total citations, which is again the total number of times your content was used as a source, as we all know. Average cited pages, which is just the daily average of unique pages cited across all supported AI platforms. Super helpful. The most interesting one to me is grounding queries. And so what this is a sample. So again, and this is very important to understand that the grounding queries are not the actual prompts that people are putting into Copilot, or they're putting, that's not what this is. What this is basically like topics in Conductor. If you're a Conductor user, it is a general idea of the topics or themes that people are asking questions about or are talking about around your brand. I think this is one of the most helpful things. Again, you get page level citation activity, visibility trends. Everybody, what I hope this is the first step in the data that we're going to be able to get. Like this should be in Webmaster Tools. Like Google should absolutely have something like this in Webmaster Tools, and they shouldn't combine everything in the performance report. There needs to be a breakout specifically for AI mode, AI overviews, et cetera, et cetera. I hope that this will force Google's hand a little bit to say, because people are going to use this. I'm going to use this. Like I actually instructed my team this morning, hey, we all have to dust off our Bing Webmaster Tools accounts, and we all have to start looking at them because it's directly from Microsoft. This is gold. This is gold. So if you don't have a Bing Webmaster Tools account, go sign up for it. Go get one, right? This is very important. I think it's very important that everyone goes in and learns this. And again, hopefully we'll get this from Google in the near future. But again, this is at least a start. This is a start of us getting some type of data from the actual source, which is hell yeah. Okay, and 2 minutes left. Last but not least, everybody, there is another core update rolling out right now, but it is in Google Discover. The interesting thing, so I won't read this all to you. This is just Google's release announcement. But today, on February 5th, they released this update. What the interesting part is what it's controlling, right? And the first bullet is the most important because this is what we covered last month, right? And what that is that showing users more locally relevant content from websites based in their country. What did we talk about that happened in the December core update? Is that we are seeing more local content showing up in the right geo, right? The Hindu.com no longer is prevalent in US SERPs anymore. And TechCrunch is, right? Like you're starting to see more US-based publishers show up in the US database. And I'm sure if we went to the India database for Google, you would see the Hindu more than you would see like the New York Times or the Wall Street Journal, et cetera, right? So this is something that is happening, right? Again, the other parts of this is reducing sensational content, clickbait, and also showing more in-depth, original, timely content. Another piece that Glenn Gabe found, which I forgot to grab the screenshot, is that there was an experience comment in here as well. The experience of your pages that are in Discover. So basically, don't clog everything with clickbait, with with sign-up sheets, with ads, and all that stuff. So again, Google is paying more attention to publishers, but mainly the geos where the publishers exist. And this is more proof that what happened in the December core update, they are going to continue down that path of, if you're a US-based publisher, you will show up more prominently in the US. If you're an India-based publisher, you will show up more prominently in India. And they're going to really push this into, push this in. So with that, everybody, we've reached our time. We talked a lot about algorithms today, but just remember, the only algorithm that matters is the heart, mind, and soul of your customer. If you create great content that they like and love, they will come back and be customers for life. If you are a Conductor customer, have you joined the community yet? Please, if you haven't, come join the community right here. Click community and join us. We have great conversations. I do a monthly get together where people can launch questions at me. Also, today, there is a brief survey, 3-question survey that we would be very, very thankful if you answered at the end of this. Just trying to get some feedback as always. But everybody, with that, I am off to the Dominican Republic, on Saturday. Thank you all so much for spending 30 minutes of your valuable time with me. It is cold here in New York, so I cannot wait to go to the beach. Again, I say this every month. This is my favorite part of my job. I would not be able to do it without all y'all showing up. The group grows every month, and I'm very, very thankful and humbled for that. So thank you all so much. Safe searching out there, and we'll see you next